Now, approximately 10 years back, a colleague of mine known as Brian Allen introduced me to a gentleman whilst I was at a conference. I think that was back in 2014, the Probe Conference, which is in St Anne's near Blackpool in the UK. I was attending there whilst I was doing some lecturing. Brian approached me with this gentleman. His name was Don Phillips, and we shook hands, and that was pretty much it. It was very short. I was very busy, of course. But Brian had been in contact with me to say that Don Phillips has some unusual abilities. And Don was trying to reach out to see if he could demonstrate some of these things to me. Of course, going back home, I started to have a look around to see if I could find anything on Mr. Phillips. And I found his YouTube channel. And I have to say, I was a little intrigued, but what I was seeing on these videos was Don clearly using a recording device, a digital recorder, and talking out to the air in a quiet environment, pressing record and then playing it back only after maybe 10 seconds or so, and capturing very clear vocal responses on them. Sometimes vocal responses in association to a question or remark that Don had stated. Now, I've done a considerable amount of work in instrumental transcommunication and EVP over the years. I've been involved in a number of experiments. So I was very well aware of that type of phenomena being reported. I mean, all you got to do is tune into a ghost hunter show to see them, plentiful. However, most of them are very questionable as to what is really being said. Sometimes it's just kind of hush. Sometimes there's some garbled messages in there. And occasionally you'll get vocal responses. And that's always been very interesting to the parapsychology departments, because we don't know what exactly, we can't completely rule that out, that something unusual might be taking place, how these recording devices are capturing these particular types of vocal responses. But Don's was quite plentiful, and not just that, Don seemingly, when looking at the videos, was, I don't know if you want to refer to him as a psychic or medium, a sensitive. There's many different names for these people that have these particular abilities. I don't really like any of them, and surprise, surprise, Don doesn't actually really like any of them neither. So I could only refer to Don as, okay, is he a catalyst or not? So I was still a little bit reluctant to get involved, because these videos are just too good to believe, to be honest. And there's one very important message that I learned through this process, and that is never to judge a book by its cover. So Don reached out to me maybe a few months later after that, and asked me if I would attend a location in Leicester with him, so he could demonstrate to me that he has these unusual abilities. But really, I mean, I don't really get too heavily involved in the ghost hunter teams sort of thing. I have been in the past, but very rarely now. And I talked to Don, and I said, look, Don, it's not really my cup of tea. You might need somebody else, be honest with you, who's quite willing to go out to an alleged haunted location and see if, if you're capturing certain things and you have certain abilities. And that was that. But Don didn't leave it there. He contacted me a few weeks later and said, look, Steve, I really would like you to come down. I really want to demonstrate to you that, these things, I have this ability, and it's very profound. There's lots of things. And went on to tell me lots and lots of different stories. And again, wasn't really my cup of tea. I said, look, Don, it's not for me. It's not for me. I don't really get too heavily involved in these sort of things. Now I've kind of gone beyond that. Though I am involved in some of the top level experiments and things, and test procedures involving paranormal or parapsychological endeavors. Anyway, Don was quite persistent. Again, I turned Don down. A few weeks later, he contacted me again. I said, look, Don, I mean, talk about persistence. I said, look, And I was getting, do you know, I'll be honest with you, I was getting a little bit tired of this. And I was a little bit sharp with Don, and I apologised for that. But I said, look, Don, I'm not the person you want. If I come down and I find anything that's hokey or dodgy, or, you're trying to deceive me, I will discredit you to the hills. I will put it out. It'll be all over the internet. Everybody will know. And so, and I was thinking, okay, he's going to take a step back now. Don's not going to be pressing so much. But he said something to me which was very intriguing. And he said, you're exactly the person I want, Steve. You're exactly the person. That's what I need. And of course, well, I was a bit taken back, and I thought, okay, all right, that's an unusual response. And I thought, in for a penny, in for a pound, as they say. And I said, okay, fine, no problem. When is it? So we set a date, and I went down to Leicester. I took my colleague with me, Jackie, and I was explaining to her on the way down in the car that don't get too comfortable. We're only probably going to be there for a couple of hours. And, I'm going to be putting Don through these rigorous tests, and, I'll find out what is what, because there's not a lot I haven't seen. Yeah, right. I explained to Jackie that, it's exciting that we're going down there and, trying to find out, does this guy have this so-called ability that we're seeing so plentifully on his YouTube channel? And it was an intriguing night. October the 4th, 2014. It's wet, it's windy, it's a miserable day in the United Kingdom. But a day with a little bit of a difference. I'm travelling for 2.5 hours. I arrived in Leicester and wasn't too sure about the location. It was a woman's house. Her name was Gaynor. Gaynor is it. And I quickly realised that this particular home of Gaynor's had quite a number of alleged paranormal disturbances.
For 34 years, Gaynor Isid had lived at her home without experiencing anything out of the ordinary. Little did she know that what was to follow would change her life forever.
There were times when Gaynor would be banging on my door and I'd open it to find her in floods of tears.
Gaynor Isid believed her home was haunted and turned to Don Phillips for assistance.
When things began to get unbearable, I rang a few spiritualist churches for mediums to come out. A few came out. There were several mediums what came in, and they all seemed to contradict each other with what I've been told, which didn't leave me with much confidence. By now, I didn't know which way to turn. It was a friend of mine who found out about Don.
The unexplained events continue to this day.
And Don had been a consistent investigator, or, doing that work in the house, trying to assist and help Gaynor for quite some time. And they built up kind of a relationship together, a professional relationship, so Don could visit the house consistently over a period of time and try and assist and capture evidence and that sort of thing. It was apparently an environment which would help Don produce or demonstrate these abilities. Now, this particular location had been known in the media, to be honest, and I don't like that. It had been on television, a morning TV show where Don and Gaynor had been party to that, visited the studio, was on morning TV show interview, and also it had also been in newspapers, and unfortunately it was in a red top newspaper, The Sun. Now, I've dealt with investigations before and I've seen what's been in the Sun newspaper in the UK, and most of the time it's just like one of the terrible papers. It's like the Sun or the Star or others, very similar. That just they're not very truthful, or they don't put the information out correctly, or they don't look into things properly. They like to put their own slant on things, make it entertainment, sometimes even ridicule. So, I don't like it when they appear in newspapers. I like to keep them low-key investigations. However, it was interesting, and the story throughout the years has been consistent about what type of phenomenon was taking place in Gaynor's home, and what type of phenomena was being captured by Mr. Don Phillips.
Obviously, with claims of a haunted house, objects moving, random fires, portals, and a ghost singing Celine Dion, it wasn't long before sooner or later it was going to attract attention. This case went nationwide, being reported in many national newspapers, magazines, radio and TV. The UK #1 breakfast show contacted Gaynor about her experiences. This promptly saw myself and Gaynor appear alongside the host Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield on the show.
I don't doubt your sincerity for a second.
It's punching me at night.
Take a This Morning crew and go down to the house.
Now, one of those particular tests he carried out in that location was trying to bring the temperature down in the room by communicating with spirits, asking them to lower their temperature in the room. And the temperature alert device was used, and you could see the temperature unit on camera, and Don asking for the temperature to drop. What is interesting is that it kind of dropped about 18 degrees in 15 minutes, and that's a considerable drop in temperature. How was that being produced? When I saw the video, I thought, well, is this something where something cold is applied to the vicinity of the temperature unit? Is it doctored digitally? Is it a hoax and stuff? Again, questionable. But if you see the actual video footage, it's very intriguing.
We need 38. That's the 39. Get back to 39. Almost there. Holding at 39.2, but you need to push it down to 38. 38.6. Brilliant. I think that's the limit. 33.9. Can you do 32? 32 in the next 60 seconds now. Nearly there. We'll go 32 out of it. Come on, you're nearly there now, you might as well.
So, of course, entering that location for the first time, meeting Don, going into Gaynor's home, I immediately wanted to get to work. And I think Don was just as keen as I was, to be honest with you. And I was quite surprised that when he was telling me about the paranormal things that had happened in the home, that he was also being very rational and also eliminating things as possible misidentifications and things like that. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. This is a gentleman that's quite happy to find rational explanations and put them out, even though he claims there is supporting evidence for the paranormal and some of his claimed abilities. So that was also very intriguing. But Don pulled out a recording device, and it was Olympus DM670, as far as I'm aware, I can remember. And he said basically, guys, can you please say hello to Steve? And press record on the recorder. And they actually have one of those recorders right here. It's a DM670, and I actually have these as well. So that was good for me. So after about 10 seconds of recording in a completely silent environment, I'm listening, waiting to hear something, nothing. But then Don plays the recording back, and I hear sounds like a female voice on the recording saying, hello, Steve. So I thought, okay, this is interesting. That must have already been on a recorder, So I said, can you do that again, Don? Maybe say something else, ask a different question. And he did do, and he did get a different response. And again, it sounded like a female voice on the recording device. And it was only recorded for like 10 seconds in a silent room. And I thought, okay, well, one more. Just do one more, because I needed to prove that the recording on this digital recorder was in fact taken at that time when we were just there. So Don did it a third time and asked a question in a silent environment, and just before him pressing stop, I threw a word out so it would get captured on the actual device. And he played it back. And once he played it back, you could hear a vocal response, again sounds female, and my word. And you can hear that it's actually me close to the actual recording device saying this word. So that kind of demonstrated the fact that, okay, this is recorded there and then. Is there something going on? Is this a rigged room? You know, is there wires around? Is speakers around? Something hidden? Something controlling the recording devices? I mean, I'm scratching my head trying to figure out what the hell's going on here. So I said, okay, forget it. Scrap your recording devices. I'm going to get my recording devices out, which are bench tested and formatted, all sorted, ready to be used. And I had to even mark up with identification stickers on these recording devices so they couldn't get swaps for Don's, which had now been completely formatted by myself on purpose.
During this investigation, I would ask questions on Steve's behalf. Steve and Jackie would hear clear replies in response to my questions. This Steve found extremely profound, not least because he monitored everything very carefully and made sure that the recorders were marked and all formatted right at the start of the evening.
We've got 3 different digital recording pieces of equipment here. The first 2 have been checked and looked at the different folders A and B. They've also been erased, ready to be used. I'm going to mark these particular, because they are both identical, they're both Olympus digital recorders. We formatted both at Don's request, and I'm going to be marking them to making sure that neither of them get switched or get mixed up through the process of recording this evening. We've also got a third digital recorder, which is going to be used probably moving around the location tonight with us. And everything has been also backed up on a second digital video cam. The process of the erasing of the folders and just to show that, you know, that nothing is on the digital recorders prior to us recording this evening. So I've made a thorough check of those and everything is tickety-boo. Again, he demonstrated not on just his recording device, but also my recording devices, exactly the same thing. So I was absolutely dumbfounded. And that was just the start of that visit to Leicester. What initially I thought was only going to be 2 hours, because I had told my colleague Jackie that don't get too comfortable, we're going to be there for 2 hours. Yeah, that turned into something stupid, like maybe, I don't know, 12 hours or something like that. It was so intriguing and profound what I was experiencing there. I had to document as much as I possibly can. And that included me going back to that location with Don on several occasions to conduct tests and analysis and utilising various different types of equipment to capture anomalous phenomena. Capturing a voice in the bathroom was certainly unusual. It was on a video recorder in the next room. The voice was singing, and ironically, was singing a song from Titanic, My Heart Won't Go On. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? It was a female voice. It was reasonably loud, and it sounded like it was coming from the bathroom because it has that, you know, that resonance in the bathroom of that sound. However, you got to conduct tests. You've got to try and prove that's the case. And of course, a friend of mine, Chris French, who's a parapsychologist from London in the UK, visited the location and he put his viewpoints over. And I completely agree with him on that viewpoint, because that's what I would have done. However, when I conducted the test, the results were something significantly different than what Chris had suggested.
I would assume that this was just someone who happened to be in the area who was singing that song.
Absolutely. I mean, and the question is, you know, what is actually going on? What could possibly be causing this?
I was determined to get this evidence of something tested one way or the other. I also was aware it would have to be somebody totally independent to myself. I'd met Steve Mera a couple of years prior at a conference. Initially, twice, Steve rejected my offer, but finally agreed to meet me at Gainer's.
So this is where it was obviously recorded. I've seen the footage that Don sent to me, and the singing on it, really interesting.
Steve Mera, a seasoned investigator and lecturer, was well known for his hardline approach on debunking claims, which had also made him unpopular in some circles. This is exactly what I needed. Steve made no secret of the fact that he was there to debunk me, my claimed abilities, and if possible, find rational explanations or other explanations for the evidence that I'd supplied. Steve also made no secret in declaring that if he found anything he thought was fake or hoaxed, he would make it public. This was the agreement. But what about Chris French's claim or assumption that the voice captured singing the Celine Dion song was nothing more than a person walking by the front, the rear of the garden, or possibly even a neighbour? It was time to put this to the test. Of course, under normal circumstances, Chris would be absolutely correct. This, however, is not normal circumstances.
This is Jackie. Jackie's going to be playing the role of Yvonne, and what we're going to actually do is we're going to record both sounds. We're going to do a direct comparable between Jackie's voice and the voice that was captured on the recorder in the bedroom, on the video camera, sorry, in the bedroom at the time. So that could be quite interesting. So join us in a couple of minutes.
In this case, we've got to say, is it possibly somebody outside making some type of singing? It sounds unusual, but nevertheless, can we rule that out? Could it have been a noise coming from next door, somebody walking past on the street? And we're going to put that to the test. We're going to run a replication and see if we can find a rational explanation. And, maybe so, I don't know.
This is the actual footage in question. Was it simply the case that somebody was at the front or rear of the property, or would the experiment show that this could not have been the case?
This is the exact camera that was used that night to capture the singing woman. It's a Sony night vision camcorder. We're going to be placing it in the back bedroom where it was that night and see how it records. Jackie's going to be in the bathroom, and we've asked Jackie to sing the very same song. Oh, and we're going to ask her to go outside, sing at the front, sing at the back, even at the side. And we're going to look at all three of those and see if we match up to the original one that we have.
The same camera used to capture the original footage was placed in the same location in the bedroom next to the bathroom with the door closed, just as it was that night.
Wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go.
Next, efforts were concentrated at the rear of Gainer's home.
Okay, this first bedroom up here is where the camera is set up and recording as it was that night. And over to the left you can see with the light on, that's the bathroom where the noise was apparently coming from. Okay, Jackie, do you want to do that again?
Okay. Near, far, wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on.
I'm going up. I'm staying here.
Yeah, apparently it was somebody supposed to be walking past, so that means you're going to have to be on the footpath.
Near, far, wherever you are, I believe.
Okay, Steve, so this is the first part, yeah.
Wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go.
Just played the second video piece, and as we know, Jackie was singing in the back garden, but there's absolutely nothing. There's no way that you can hear even the words properly. You can just make out something, but you can't even make out the words with Jackie singing in the back garden, and that's what's caught on the video camera. Even the one from the front, absolutely nothing. Couldn't hear anything. Of course, we are 52 feet away from the front recording on this piece of equipment, which is in the back bedroom. The only one that seems to match up is the one that was recorded in the bathroom, which was Jackie singing in the bathroom. And not only that, it's exactly the same acoustics, that echo effect that you get from singing in the bathroom.
I'm saying there's absolutely no way you could hear her from upstairs, from here. It's about 52 foot. There's absolutely no way she could be heard. You couldn't hear it if she was stood here near the front door.
So from the investigation, we've been given a piece of audio which was taken at the location. What's interesting is that it appears that there's a vocal of a female, by all intents and purposes, singing on the captured device. Now, it has been speculated on a number of occasions by people that that voice may have been somebody passing outside the house, at the back, the rear of the building, or even at the front of the building. So what we've done is we've got that piece of analysis and looked at it carefully to find out, could it really have been somebody walking past the house, or did it, as we initially thought, come from the bathroom? The speculation of somebody walking past outside that's not going to be the case. We were talking 52.8 feet away from the camera. Absolutely nothing could be obtained on the capturing device by Jackie singing out on the front pathway, even when she was louder than what the initial recording would have been. And of course, letter C is the location at the rear of the building, which is around about 18.6 feet away from the captured device. We could just vaguely hear Jackie singing in the back garden, but it wasn't so significantly and not loud enough to be captured on the device. The only one that sounded exactly the same was one. It was replicated in the assumed place we thought it would have been, which would have been the bathroom. And you can actually see the results here from the test procedures carried out and the location of the bathroom. And some things strike a chord. First thing is that it had matching in the frequency range. It also had matching in the environmental resonance in the bathroom. It had matching amplification, and the decibel level, the sound level, was pretty much very similar. And it was a female vocalization test, which did provide so many similarities between the two. It was approximately 14.3 feet away from the captured device, and the pitch and the audible loss over that distance was also a match. By all intents and purposes, what we can conclude is, it's quite simple, the voice had to have come from the bathroom, and with no females in the property, what else could it have been?
Now, most people will know I'm not fond of the word like portal or stargates and things like that, especially not in the paranormal field. We tend to hear references like that in the ufological studies, where you've got the sudden materialization or manifestation of UFOs, seemingly coming out of particular locations and disappearing as well. It's interesting though when you come to hear about those references in paranormal phenomena, because is it the same thing it's kind of taking place, that some type of doorway, I don't know what best word to use apart from portal, to be honest, opens, a micro one, and phenomena transfers into that environment, paranormal phenomena. It is theorised, it's speculative of course, but you've got to push the boundaries so far sometimes to try and work out the mechanics or dynamics of phenomena and how it's actually produced in certain environments, and even controlled significantly by the phenomenon itself. So he references this portal in the kitchen of Gainer's kitchen, which was a locked off room. There was a CCTV camera there, motion detection, and was monitoring that environment when it captured something quite unusual, 3 particular photographs. And what was captured on it is still, to this day, I cannot rationalise. I don't know what it is. So let's take a look at that.
Yeah. So, Chris, do you have a view or a possible explanation of something like a portal?
Well, I mean, the idea of a portal doesn't actually make really any sense in terms of conventional science.
When it comes to claims of things such as ultimate dimensions, realities, and portals not being part of conventional science, there's a few points I'd like to make. First of all, few would argue that conventional science is still, despite all the advances, in its infancy. We are still learning much about the planet, the solar system, and things around us. All current scientific knowledge is tentative, provisional, and nothing is final. Obviously, experimental evidence is better and more credible than correlated evidence, but even the former cannot prove a theory, and can only provide strong evidence for the theory against its alternatives.
I do know that you can get things where you get internal reflections, you can get, I mean, I'm not saying this in this case is not what happened with the Don's photo, but you can get camera straps going in front of lenses, you can get things that were just kind of going past and so on. So I mean, I don't know what the explanation is, I'm being straight up about that.
I've been here tonight, looked at that particular photograph countless times, and whilst I've been here, I've set up a digital camera to try and get exactly the same perspective and angle and position in that location, try and replicate the photograph. And in fact, there's been speculation many times that is it something moving in front of that photograph at high speed, be it a camera lead, a strap, anything of the sort. I've done a number of tests tonight to prove that actually isn't so. And the photographs that you'll see during this investigation will demonstrate the fact that there's a significant difference between an alleged object moving in front of the camera and something unusual that Don may have actually captured on film. What we're describing here with these three particular photographs is photographic one. There was a series of three photographs. The first one has an anomaly in the top left hand corner. What we've done is we've eliminated the fact that that is actually not the cupboard overhang nor cupboard door open. So, and it's also, if you actually look closely at that particular photograph, there's pixelation slight difference in regarding the anomaly, and that's simply because it seems to be closer to the camera lens. The second photograph is the one in question, which seems to be the most significant, where it does seem to capture something adrift on the photograph in the middle. You know, it's been speculated many times that could be a camera strap. In fact, we've also done a second test tonight to prove that actually isn't so. And the third photograph, which is really interesting, is that it does seem to be a captured movement of the actual camera. Now, between photograph 2 and photograph 3, there was certainly movement of the camera somehow, when in fact the whole area was locked off. So, a bit of a mystery. So I had the opportunity to sit down with Gaynor and ask her about some of the things she'd experienced in her own home. What's the worst thing you've experienced whilst living here?
Well, it's a couple of things really. A few fires.
Fires?
Fires, yeah.
So do you actually see these?
Yeah, just
start?
Just start, yeah.
Right, and what's that start with? Do you just start with smouldering? Or do you just
no, it just comes up like a Bunsen burner.
Things catching fire?
Yeah, a bloke from, well, he was a priest from Evangelical Church.
Oh, a priest, right.
Yeah. He witnessed it as
Right.
we were in the back bedroom blessing the house.
And what was his response to seeing something like that?
Quite amazed.
Quite amazed?
Yeah.
And has this priest been back since?
He did used to come back. He used to come back with other people and he used to bring food and they used to sit there banging drums, singing.
Right, and what did he believe this was? Did he believe it was something good, something bad? I mean, did he say give you any indication?
I don't know. He didn't give me any indication. He gave me the indication that he was enjoying what was going on.
Right, so really he didn't really give you any information as to any idea why it might be happening?
No.
And how it might be happening?
Yeah.
Right, and those disturbances, are they still taking place now? Or?
The fires, no.
No, so they've subsided, but what type of stuff have you been left with over a period of time now? What's actually going on now?
Things will move right now, and noises, breathing.
Right, so you have object manipulation and you've got audible disturbances.
Yeah.
Don tells me you've had quite a lot of people visiting to the location, and you've also had experiences here, including the priest who unfortunately wasn't being able to give you much information as to what was going on, but we were certainly surprised at what he witnessed here. What do you think's been the most helpful?
Don's been the most helpful. He's been with me all the way through it. He's caught a lot of stuff.
Now, this particular priest apparently visited the location and allegedly seen a cat basket burst into flames, quickly vacated that evening after seeing that. But when Gaynor tells me about a priest coming back and banging on drums, and I'm thinking, what the hell? What is all that about? I really do not know. And I thought, okay, that's a bit strange. Nevertheless, though, the priest was talked to, and he didn't want to talk about some of the things he'd seen there, and had nothing, didn't want anything to do with it. Nothing whatsoever. But according to other people, the priest did in fact witness numerous incendiary effects, combustion. And there was evidence of things that had been burning around. You could clearly see that. I was recording them and photographing them and asking Gaynor about those incidents. Over the last 10 years, working alongside Don, occasionally you get vocal responses, which are very clear, and you get remarks, some terrible remarks sometimes, like, I'm going to break your legs, I'm going to kill you. You know, I'm a demon. There's a good one. I'm a demon. And normally we kind of just shrug that off and go, okay, all right, you're a demon. But in this case at Gaynor's, we got that again, you know, this vocal response. It was a little bit different than the other vocal responses that have been captured on recording devices, but kind of a grufty, sounds a bit like a male voice, saying, oh yes, I'm a demon. And it was quite intriguing, the first recording of this that was captured.
Okay, so demon, speak to me. No, I blanked both these recorders.
Yeah,
both
you showed me straight away, both on file A, completely clear.
On what file are we on now?
File A.
It was during a totally unconnected night to the investigation. One of Gaynor's guests asked me how many spirits there were in the property. I suggested that they answer that. We promptly went upstairs to the landing, where I asked the question, and this is the action of the gentleman that had heard one of the spirits replying to me for the very first time.
Jesus!
Let's listen to that one more time.
In regarding the 3 photographs taken in the kitchen on a CCTV camera, motion detection, it was completely locked off, that kitchen. Nobody was going in, nobody was going out. It's incident tape. It's placed usually over doors, especially when I'm there. You know, so we know it was a controlled environment. There were 3 photographs taken extremely fast, not picking up anybody in there, but the first one had an anomaly on it. It was kind of something dark close to the camera lens. The second photograph was the main one with an unusual circling, spiraling thing. It was moving through the kitchen. I don't know what that is. Certainly wasn't a camera strap, I can tell you that. And the third one where the camera looked to have been moved, and that shunting movement was enough to cause the photograph to take very quickly. But as to how it was shunted, we've no idea. Now, I did conduct a number of tests proving the fact that, you know, it's not a camera strap. It's not something which is moving around quickly in front of the camera, because I did a series of tests with the same camera in the same environment sometime later when the kitchen had been redesigned, of course, over about a year, but we still conducted the test there under the same conditions. And what the original photograph shows is something that doesn't seem to be anything that has been moving around quite fast, or a camera strap or a lead or something like that in the kitchen. So it still remains unknown to this day. A number of other interesting things did take place in that environment. Apart, you know, there was the sound of women talking, and sometimes it's seemingly between themselves. I mean, one comment which we heard was, I've seen a lovely dress. I mean, what the hell does that mean? But it was heard. Conversations were heard. Whispers were heard. Bangs, sounds, audible phenomena. Items sometimes being moved in that location. There were lots of things going on there. And I have to say, you know, it was quite prominent, the disturbances in Gaynor's home. So it was an ideal location for Don to demonstrate a number of his abilities, and that was clairaudient, clairsentient, being able to record things on his recorder. It didn't work for me hard for the time. If the recorder's in my hand, hush, nothing. Recorder's in his hand, some type of vocal response. And it is vocal response. And sometimes they were so clear and answers to questions that Don was giving. That's a little bit more than just your standard EVP. You know, electronic voice phenomena, you're actually conversing. It's like an actual voice phenomena. You're conversing and getting responses back. There's a communication going on. Absolutely profound. At that time, I'd spent about 30 years in the field. And yes, I've obtained EVP and some things through instrumental transcommunication practices. And to be honest, I have to say, the most significant ones were the ones that were captured by Don in numerous places where I've been with him over the years. He intrigued me that much that I went on to conduct further investigations with Don, taking him as a catalyst out with me on location, because not only did it give me the availability to monitor Don and conduct experiments with Don, which I could document, but also see if he can assist with the information pertaining to the locations where we were investigating. And that journey's been for 10 years and we're still at it. And it's been absolutely an eye-opening experience for me, which I have to say has kind of changed my whole view and perceptions of paranormal phenomena. Because I do believe you can go through your whole life investigating phenomena and actually never be in a situation where it produces to such a level, which I've been privy to, and experienced multiple factions of various types of phenomena, from visual to audible, and also sensory, feeling, that sort of thing. But most intriguing is the times when even video cameras, which were being filming that location, are catching anomalous vocal responses, sometimes in association to what we're doing, and we don't hear anything. And that's where we start to get into the advanced studies of what is referred to as transplacement, which we will get into at some point, guys. And last but not least, whilst that visit was taking place in Leicester, meeting Don, I set up a test, and basically it was a test put forward for him to fail. Basically, there's no way he was going to pass this test. It was a hidden envelope test.
First carried out over 100 years ago. What's really going to be interesting is that not only going to ask Don to see if he can find out any information pertaining to what the items are in hidden envelopes, so he won't be able to see the images inside them. But he's also going to have to, he's going to be challenged with 3 different envelopes. So he's going to have to pick one envelope out of the 3 and also get that right. And what's also interesting is that Don hasn't got a clue we're going to be doing this.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, he's going to need all the help he can get. Let's just say that.
This experiment I completed on the first attempt, much to Steve's surprise.
Well, Don's just packing up. It's been a really interesting night. To be honest, I expected to leave within the first couple of hours because I thought, like normally, I'd find instant rational explanations and I'd be vacating the building quite quickly. Well, this is hours on, I'm still here after a lengthy investigation, and I'm still scratching my head, to be honest. There's been some really interesting sounds which have been recorded on the digital devices. There's also been the experiments that we've conducted. We've done a Faraday cage test. We've covered with foil around the equipment to try and shield any stray reflective voices or any transients coming through. And again, we still got them. So we tried to conduct a few of those experiments to try and eliminate that process, but that doesn't seem to have worked. Also, we've also done the test, which was the envelopes, and that was really fascinating because, by all accounts and purposes, we got results, and I don't know how Don managed to do that. He was listening to what he believes is some type of communication from the spirits,
And of course, what's happened, the result of that is that Don not only picked out the right envelope, he also picked out the correct item that was in it, the name of the item. And that was quite remarkable. And the results were, as far as I'm concerned, quite amazing. And the experiment was conducted, witnessed by third hand, and I don't know how to explain that. We're going to have to obviously conduct more tests. And all in all, with the photographs that we've got and the video footage and the strange things that have been going on at this location, it's become quite mind-boggling. There were 3 envelopes, and there were 3 different images in these envelopes. Now, those conducting a test, even myself, I didn't know what those images were. No idea. Done third party. No information given. He had to sit down, Don, and pick out one envelope of the 3 and then tell me what the image is on the on the paper inside the envelope, and you couldn't see inside the envelopes. And I was just as intrigued because I didn't know what was in them. Don't know what images were inside. Don went straight to it, and he communicated with a female. It was like, sounds like a female, vocal responses on the recording devices he was using. He was asking what the image was, and I could hear some response. I did say nothing to Don though. And then Don said, "Did you just say the word kite?" Response came back and said something like, "You've got it," or "Yes," that sort of thing. So Don looked at me and said, "I've picked envelope B and the image in there is a kite." Of course, opening the envelope, tore it open because it was sealed, and then that was wrapped around another piece of paper. Opened that one, and then I pulled out the image, and lo and behold, it was a kite. Now that test was designed for him to fail. I've never seen anybody just randomly do that, which means that we're going to have to conduct more tests. So that was my introduction to meeting Don Phillips, somebody who I thought, oh, maybe he's a little bit of a showman. Maybe he wants to just make videos and hoax them and put them out on YouTube, wants to build his channel up. Yeah, I couldn't have been further from the truth in regarding the channel. And, it was about him truly demonstrating some uncanny abilities he's had. And for me, I had to stick to my guns, to be honest with you. It put me in a very unusual and uncomfortable place, because of other people I know in the academic field, that I am going to have to stand by my word. I should not have judged a book by its cover, even though it's so easy to do because there's so much dodginess, if that's a word, Google that, out there in the world in regarding these so-called paranormal abilities. But Don is most definitely a catalyst. He is, in my now 41 years of investigative research and conducting tests and experiments, the most significant individual I've ever come across. And I'm not the only one to say this, because in other videos coming along soon, you're going to see that journey unfold yourself and listen to other people's statements, people which are very, very credible, people which do not have a problem calling people out like me. I've upset a few people in my time by saying, look, no, that's hokey. I don't believe it. And they don't like that. But like I say, don't ask me to get involved if you're not prepared to have my conclusion. I don't like my time wasted and expenses and all that sort of thing. I'm getting a bit too long in the tooth for that now. And my patience have grown thin a little bit over the years, to say the least. But yes, it was caused me a few issues because people thought I'd lost the plot, or I was in on it with him. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm never going to do that. Never, because just like myself, there are other people which do want to advance this subject, do want answers, do want to conduct more tests and experiments, and trying to get certain establishments to open their doors a little bit more and conduct relevant investigative procedures to try and get some of those answers. We can't be static any longer. It's been over 100 years in the paranormal phenomenon. We're still pretty much static. Yes, a few little interesting things, but you know, there's so much more we can do. And that, for me, it's about advancing the subject. So that's something I'd never do. However, what I can say is that I went through the ropes, to be honest with you, because I stuck to my guns and I said to Don, if I, you know, equally, if I say something, if I see something dodgy or fake, I'd put it out. But I also have to do the opposite. I also have to say, well, if I find an explanation and I cannot, you know, rationalize it, I also have to put that out. I have to put it out as I say it as it is. However, it is what it is at the end of the day. You know, I just have to say it. And yes, it was problematic a little bit at the time. People thought that I'd lost the plot. But it opened up the possibility of being able to work with Don over the next 10 years. And that's exactly what I did. And as time's gone on, I've seen Don's abilities flourish. So there it is, guys. I'm going to be putting some more videos out, some clips, of my work with Don Phillips over the last 10 years and how his abilities have progressed into other areas. And it's been an absolutely fascinating journey. I'm going to be sharing some of that evidence with you. And it's pretty mind-blowing. And the people that I've had to bring in and get involved, because I need other people to see and experience what I'm experiencing here. And it's been an incredible journey. So I hope you've liked the video. Please don't forget to share, like and subscribe. And also, I'm going to be putting Don's YouTube channel, where you can find some of these videos, in under the description of the video. And please visit, take a look, have a look at them. It's fascinating. And I thank you again for watching, and we'll be back soon.